China's growing global auto dominance has some lawmakers on edge.
Chinese have targeted Mexico as a prime export market.
Have you ever noticed how everyone these days is talking about going green, but still wants to save a bit of green too? People everywhere are on the hunt for sustainable, wallet-friendly options, and guess what? The electric vehicle or EV market is perfect playground for this shift. It's massive, it's growing, and it's shaking up the auto industry worldwide. But not everyone can play in every market. Take China for example. With US-China relations pretty frosty right now, it's been tough for Chinese companies to park their cars in American driveways. So what's their next move? They're eyeing a new contender, Mexico. Yep, China's got its sights set on Mexico, and it's all part of a bigger strategy that's left some experts raising their eyebrows. But regardless of what anyone thinks, China's EV strategy is unfolding right before our eyes. It's like watching a game of chess where every move matters, and we're here to break down how they're playing it, and why this might be just their clever way of driving back into the US market. Mexico is quickly becoming the go-to spot for electric vehicle makers, and they've got some solid reasons to focus there. Picture this: Mexico ranks as one of the top importers of Chinese vehicles, with a staggering $4.6 billion worth flowing into their market. And that's not small change. And China, well, they're not just sitting back. They're actively scouting new factory sites in Durango, Jalisco, and Nuevo León. Why Mexico, you ask? It's all about the magic combo of low-cost production and a sweet trade deal with the US and Canada, thanks to the USMCA agreement. This agreement means vehicles made in Mexico can roll into the US with zero tariffs. Pretty clever, right? It's almost as if China discovered a secret tunnel straight into the American market, with Mexico acting as the perfect gateway. And with all this action, Mexico's auto industry is shifting gears in a big way, potentially setting the stage for a major economic shakeup. So, why does this even matter? Well, here's the scoop. Chinese EVs come with a serious price advantage. They're much cheaper than many American-made cars. And even Tesla, the US poster child for EVs, is feeling the heat. Tesla is considering setting up shop in Mexico too to keep costs down, but even then, their cars are pricier than the Chinese ones. So it's no wonder that Mexican buyers are opting for Chinese EVs. They're affordable, practical, and do the job just fine. This boosts Chinese companies' sales, allowing them to ramp up production even more. It's a virtuous cycle. But here's where it gets interesting. China's not just selling cars, they're executing a master plan. By setting up shop in Mexico, they're positioning themselves to take a bigger bite out of the US market. And they're not exactly keeping it a secret. They're announcing plans to build factories in Mexico specifically to churn out cars for US buyers. The strategy is as bold as it is brilliant, setting the stage for a potential game changer in the EV landscape. So, what's the deal with China's big push into Mexico? Are they the bad guys in the story? Well, it depends on who you ask. Here's the reality. China is aggressively expanding into Mexico's auto market, and they're grabbing a big slice of the pie. Naturally, this has some folks in the US feeling a bit jittery, and for good reason. After all, China manufactures over half of the world's electric vehicles, and has no plans to slow down. They're flexing their muscles, showing off what they've got, even if they can't sell directly to the US. Mexico is proving to be more than willing to buy. The cars are affordable, the demand is through the roof, and everyone's cashing in. Sure, some might call it a sneaky backdoor strategy, but really, isn't China just supplying what people want? Let's zoom out a bit because China's game plan is way bigger than just Mexico. They're eyeing markets across the globe, from Latin America to Asia and the Middle East. Why these places? Simple. They've got fewer regulations, lower taxes, and tons of growth potential. It's a win-win setup. For countries like Thailand, that has meant more jobs, more products, and more economic growth, while China enjoys tax breaks, cheap land, and a workforce that doesn't break the bank. And Mexico, well, they're right up in China's sights alongside the rest of Latin America for these exact reasons. It's a strategy that's as much about building global influence as it is about selling cars. You might wonder, why does the US care so much about what's happening in Mexico? Well, because if China strengthens its foothold there, it could start selling its EVs in the US at rock-bottom prices, cheaper than even American-made cars. This isn't a new story. We've seen it happen before with other car brands. Remember when Hyundai and BMW became household names seemingly overnight? Now many believe China's gearing up to do the same thing with their EVs. If China gains control of wealthier markets by manufacturing in Mexico, they could end up dominating the US auto market with unbeatable prices and aggressive expansion. And with Mexico acting as a bridge, the US market might soon find itself flooded with Chinese EVs, changing the landscape in ways we haven't seen before. Here's where it gets even more interesting. China isn't just making cars in Mexico, they're also cranking out the parts that go into the cars. And guess what? These parts can be shipped straight to the US without a hitch, thanks to Mexico's strategic location. It's not just about selling cars, it's about taking control of the entire supply chain. With tensions running high between China and the US, direct entry into the American market isn't on the table. But by embedding themselves in Mexico, China is inching closer to the US border and giving American consumers a taste of what they can offer, and at a fraction of the price. Think about it. For the cost of one Tesla, you could buy 2 Chinese EVs. Even if China isn't quite ready to take over the American market just yet, they're certainly laying the groundwork for a future play. It's a bold maneuver that could disrupt the industry and force competitors to rethink their strategies. Now, here's the big question. What's going to happen next? Political winds can change in a heartbeat, and future US administrations might decide to take a tougher stance on Chinese imports. But in the meantime, China is making bold moves in Mexico, and it's clear they have no intention of slowing down. If they succeed, the US and Canada might have to rethink their trade and economic strategies to keep China from taking over. And while the future remains uncertain, one thing is crystal clear. Mexico is stepping into the spotlight as a key player in what could be the next big trade showdown. With so much at stake, all eyes will be on how this plays out, and whether new alliances or rivalries will shape the next chapter of this story. The EV race is in full swing, and it's going to be a wild ride, with China making power plays in Mexico, and everyone from Tesla to traditional automakers trying to keep up. The future of the global auto market is up for grabs. Who will come out on top? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure, this is just the beginning. Grab your popcorn, folks, things are about to get really interesting. As we watch this high-stakes game unfold, new players may emerge, unexpected partnerships could form, and the auto industry as we know it might be turned on its head. Whether it leads to a trade war, a race for innovation, or a reshuffling of global economic alliances, the battle for the EV market is set to redefine the future of transportation. So hang on tight because we're in for a thrilling journey filled with twists, turns, and plenty of surprises along the way. So, with China and Mexico as a strategic gateway to enter the US market and potentially reshape the global EV landscape, are we witnessing the beginning of a new era of economic alliances and trade dynamics that could redefine global power structures in the years to come? Let us know what you think in the comments below.